Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing the Chamber of Secrets, Lord Voldemort, and whether or not it would have ever been possible for two of him to exist simultaneously. In the Chamber of Secrets, we see a much younger version of Voldemort, aka Tom Riddle, inside of the chamber. This version of Riddle was of course a product of his first Horcrux, the Diary of Tom Riddle. The ultimate purpose of creating a Horcrux is to achieve immortality. However, the truly sinister component of creating a Horcrux is that in order to produce one, you must murder someone. The Diary of Tom Riddle became a Horcrux after Voldemort murdered Moaning Myrtle in 1943. When Harry enters the chamber, he's met with Riddle. You're the heir of Slytherin. You're Voldemort. Surely you don't think I was going to keep my filthy muggle father's name? No, I fashioned myself a new name. A name I knew wizards everywhere would one day fear to speak. When I became the greatest sorcerer in the world. Minute by minute, the Tom Riddle in front of Harry appeared more and more real. Riddle seemed to grow stronger and stronger, assuming a more prominent corporeal form over time. He achieved this by feeding off of Ginny and her deepest and darkest fears. She put too much into the diary, into me, enough to let me leave its pages at last. Riddle also later says, "Yes, Potter, the process is nearly complete. In a few minutes, Ginny Weasley will be dead, and I will cease to be a memory. Lord Voldemort will return, very much alive." So that poses the question, if Tom Riddle had been successful in killing Ginny and assumed a form of his own, would there have been two Voldemorts? How does that work? This confuses things a bit, as the Half-Blood Prince references the diary as a weapon to possess someone else to work on Tom Riddle's behalf, while the Chamber of Secrets shows him as being able to return to some kind of independent form. What would this mean for each Voldemort? The new, younger form of him and the wraith form of him that was lurking around. The new Riddle appears to be entirely independent from the present-day Riddle. He has some concept of who the future Voldemort is and some understanding of present-day events, but doesn't share the memories of the new Voldemort. As we know, the purpose of a Horcrux is not to create a new individual, but to protect its creator from death. This is why the events of the Chamber of Secrets are unusual. How could another person be created? What intrigued and alarmed me most was that the diary had been intended as a weapon as much as a safeguard, said Dumbledore. I still don't understand, said Harry. Well, it worked as a Horcrux is supposed to work. In other words, the fragment of soul concealed inside it was kept safe and had undoubtedly played its part in preventing the death of its owner. But there could be no doubt that Riddle really wanted that diary read. Wanted the piece of his soul to inhabit or possess somebody else, so that Slytherin's monster would be unleashed again. Well, he didn't want his hard work to be wasted, said Harry. He wanted people to know that he was Slytherin's heir, because he couldn't take credit at the time. The answer to the question of whether two Voldemorts could exist is yes and no. Yes, there would have been two Voldemorts present in the world, but no, the new Voldemort wouldn't be a clone of the old Voldemort. The two would still share a life force, and so the destruction of one could mean the destruction of the other. However, the most important thing to remember is that the present-day Voldemort would be far too arrogant to accept that another version of him exists in the world, one who is equal. To quote Highlander, there can only be one. J.K. Rowling was once asked what would have happened if Ginny had died and Tom Riddle had escaped the diary, to which Rowling responds, I can't answer that fully until all 7 books are finished, but it would have strengthened the present-day Voldemort considerably. I think that from this we can assume a couple of things. First, that the Wraith or original Voldemort was the master, and still held a certain amount of control over the new Voldemort. And second, I think that it's likely that, had Riddle succeeded in achieving a second physical form, the master or Wraith Voldemort would have combined his soul with the new Voldemort. They would once again share a physical form. Voldemort likes to operate alone, remember. I believe he would have found the thought of being independent, even on the elixir of life, intolerable. Therefore I am convinced he intended to continue to rely on his Horcruxes. He would need nothing more, if only he could regain a human form. He was already immortal, you see, or as close to immortal as any man can be. And that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, you're a wizard, Harry.